It's good to see you today. In our study, we're going to be looking at Saul's unlawful sacrifice. Our hymn today is called Great God, Should We Thy Grace Abuse?
Great God, should we thy grace abuse, thy love and power disown, as did the disobedient Jews who brought thy judgments down. Thy bounteous hand on them bestowed whate'er there was sublime, yet they provoked their generous God until they were destroyed. Should we like they suppose we stand and therefore live secure? Our house is built upon the sand and our destruction sure. Then let us ever watch and pray, be always on our guard, lest like the Jews we run astray and thus forsake our Lord.
Let's look at our passage now. In 1 Samuel chapter 13, let me get over there. In 1 Samuel chapter 13, at verse 1, it says, Saul reigned 1 year, and when he'd reigned 2 years over Israel, Saul chose for himself number of people, number of men, and Jonathan attacks the garrison of the Philistines. Philistines didn't like that a whole lot, so they gathered together to fight with Israel, 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen, and people as the sand which is on the seashore in multitude. And so, needless to say, Israel's a little afraid now. Pause right there just for a second. You remember why they wanted a king to begin with? To go out and fight against the enemy. And yet here they are. It's like, okay, Philistines are the enemy, and things aren't going the way they had hoped. Needless to say. It's to the point, people are hiding in caves and thickets and rocks and all that. And in verse 7, some people are crossing eastward. You know, they're getting out of Dodge, is what they're doing. Now Saul, he's still in Gilgal. Verse 8. Then he waited 7 days according to the time set by Samuel, but Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him. So Saul said, Bring a burnt offering and peace offerings here to me, and he offered the burnt offering. Now it happened as soon as he had finished presenting the burnt offering that Samuel came, and Saul went out to meet him that he might greet him. And Samuel said, What have you done? So Saul said, When I saw that the people were scattered from me, when I saw they were scattered from me, and that you did not come within the days appointed, and that the Philistines gathered together, I said, The Philistines will now come down on me at Gilgal, and I have not made supplication to the Lord. Therefore I felt compelled and offered a burnt offering. And Samuel said to Saul, You have done foolishly. You have not kept the commandment of the Lord your God, which he commanded you. For now the Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever, but now your kingdom shall not continue. The Lord has sought for himself a man after his own heart, and the Lord has commanded him to be commander over his people, because you have not kept what the Lord commanded you. Okay. And so to think about what Saul says here. And one of the things it speaks about when Samuel says, What have you done? And Saul says, I saw the people were scattered from me. Now you have thousands of Philistines scattering. And he doesn't have that many left. It's just so that's one factor in what he does wrongly. It's just about numbers. And and sometimes when numbers start getting down, people start asking themselves, what can we do differently? And not what does God want us to do, but what can we do differently? And they're afraid, and it's because numbers aren't what they think they should be. And so Samuel says, you've acted foolishly. back to the account, he says, when I saw the people were scattered and that you did not come within the days appointed. The commentators talk about that idea, Samuel not coming within the days. And what they say is that, well, Samuel came at the end of the seventh day. That may be. Here in verse 8, earlier in 1 Samuel, it talks about the 7 days, but most of the commentators say it can't be talking about that because that happened another time. But that apparently he had said that he would be there in 7 days. I think it's okay to just take verse 8 for what it says. He waited 7 days according to the time set by Samuel, but Samuel didn't come to Gilgal. And that it says what it says. And the point I want to make is Samuel is about to die, frankly. It's like, Saul, you're the king, dude. You're the king. You're supposed to be leading the army. If your faith is based on whether or not Samuel's holding your hand, Samuel's not going to be able to hold your hand here in a little bit. He's going the way of all men. So I'm okay saying if Samuel showed up later than he first intended, okay, things happen. If that's the case, if that's not the case, regardless, whether Samuel's there or not is no excuse for what Saul does. It's like, no, you obey the Lord. If I'm not there in 7 days, give it another. If Samuel wasn't there in 14 days, if something had happened to Samuel within those 7 days and Samuel died, did that suddenly give Saul the right to act like a prophet and priest? No. It's like, nope, he doesn't have the right. And so we think about that idea, and sometimes, and you see this more than once in Scripture, when people do what's right when someone else is there holding their hand. And sometimes you're like, well, I'm glad that person's there holding their hand, but what happens when that person's not there? So here Saul is. One more thing we'll mention. Do you notice what he says? Verse 12, therefore I felt compelled and offered a burnt offering. I felt compelled. Well, I didn't know we were talking about feelings. I felt compelled. It is not within man to direct his own steps. There's a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death. How you felt? No. You do what the Lord tells you to do. That's the only way you can know whether or not you're doing what's pleasing to Him. And so, back to our hymn, we cannot abuse the grace of God. Shall we continue to sin that grace may abound? Certainly not. What could Saul have said? Well, but I offered a sacrifice. It was an unlawful sacrifice. We have to respect the Lord. Appreciate you. Hope you have a good day. Join us tomorrow for another portion of our daily praise.